Welcome to the San Antonio FC FanCast. I'm out of breath. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing well on this Sunday. Season's right around the corner.
Is it?
I'm gonna. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna shoot it off to Harry though. Harry, fire away, my guy.
Well, with San Antonio FC, you would never know. But joining me tonight, Rafa, how are you? I know you've spent a week down in South Texas. Hopefully you return home and can enjoy the comforts of your home for at least a little bit.
Yeah, I'm back from my week-long trip to Laredo and then Victoria and then back over here. I was at the AT&T Center doing a college fair and then came back, got to sleep in my bed finally after 3 weeks on the road. So, but I'm back at the grind again.
Those miles for those vacations when you actually want to go on vacation. The hotel perks are along those lines here. Royce, how are you? You did the great intro here. You mentioned that you're outside a lot today on this beautiful day before it gets super hot here in Texas.
Well, it's already, spoiler alert, it's already pretty hot. The temperature said 75, but it felt like 90 in the direct sunlight.
It was 83, 85 late this afternoon.
Gross.
It was 100 in Laredo on Thursday, so I had to survive that.
That's why you shouldn't live in Laredo. I don't get why people live in Laredo. It's ridiculous. And then in Del Rio, it's going to be 110 in what, like 2 hours?
Tomorrow.
In April.
Yeah, exactly. So ridiculous, man. No, yesterday, once again, I volunteered to do a charity barbecue for the Boys and Girls Clubs and the Salvation Army at a local club. And we did like a little, got together with some local sports radio personalities, and I set up an all sports combine bit, and it ended in hilarity and just as awkward and non-athletic as you can imagine. And it was fun though, but I was in the sun for 4 or 5 hours yesterday, and then I was in the sun for voluntarily, well, maybe an hour, a couple hours in the heat of the day with my kid just playing soccer. So I'm beat. Sun's already getting to me, and it's March. It's gross. That's not how it should be, but it is what it is. So we're here.
And then,
yep.
To me, one of the great minds of USL, Mr. John Morrissey. Let me go run through his intro here. It might take about 10 minutes, but he's on the USL show with the great Kaylor, Ryan, Phil, and a bunch of others that rotate there. Generally, they air Tuesdays. I believe it's at 8 o'clock Central Time for that here. It's a good hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long Kaylor wants to be in the minivan for that here. He's also a contributor of The Backheeled, which is a new website for this year. Well, I guess it started end of last year. Oh, no, it started this year here.
Yeah, midway through last year, now subscription. Yep.
So, but when subscription, to me, it's well worth it for the price of $5. You get great coverage from Mr. Joe Lowry, who covers everything great, especially MLS, which we don't talk a lot about here in San Antonio for obvious reasons. But U.S. men's national teams, he is one of the go-tos for that. Ariana Kaskani, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, for NWSL and U.S. women's national team. And John with Mr. USL Championship, your rankings and all that stuff is going behind the paywall this year for well-deserved for all the time and efforts. And I think you say it's 4,000 words just in that one article every week where you talk about everybody here. And then to me, an added bonus I don't think gets advertised enough is they do a podcast, a daily podcast. It's about 10 to 15 minutes generally, as well that you can get on most of your major podcast networks. So, John, welcome. I won't take issue with your off-season rankings, a C, but we're not Detroit, so we're not going to go that far.
Right. Well, no, I appreciate the very kind intro. I'm excited to be here to talk. The C was before I heard about the signing that I'm not going to be saying publicly because I'll let the team have some shine on that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, some good news coming in the week before the season starts here.
Well, they better.
Right.
I said last week that they would do 2 to 3 signings last week, and San Antonio said, "Well, yeah, no, that's not happening." And they did do a jersey.
What they did was they said, "Oh, Harry said we're going to do something. Yeah, we're not going to do that thing. We're going to hold off on that. No, thank you."
Pretty much. So.
And hey, maybe this thing fell apart with like visa issues or something. I don't know with this league, but
once again, spoiler alert. And one of the interesting things you bring this up, we did have it on. We had it on good word. We had photographic evidence that San Antonio was going to sign a very experienced MLS fullback and center back hybrid, and he ended up signing with FC Dallas. So
Sam Junka,
yeah, and these things kind of happen whenever San Antonio FC is trying to sign that player from a cut above. So
I had heard about a midfielder from Orlando who, I mean, maybe they announced it this week, but it seemingly fell through in the last couple of months. So lots of that apparently.
Yeah, that, like I said, that's what happens when you try to get that player from a cut above. A lot of competition in there. So
yeah. So John, we're going to be kind of doing kind of a preview here. Do you want to start? And I guess the question is for Royce and Rafa, do we want to start San Antonio specific, or do we want to kind of start kind of league wide, kind of get his perspective, just overall, we start on the East and then move to the West. You guys want to start locally, or you want to start nationally and then come back to locally?
let's get the SAFC stuff out of the way, and then we'll finish up with the meat and potatoes of this podcast, which should be we'll start with the meat and potatoes, and then we'll get to the nice fine dessert of the actual discussion and why we're really here and why all the listeners need to listen to this, including Kaler in his truck. So let's start off with the
he's in a truck.
Kaler's always in his truck. Always.
I thought it was a minivan.
Is it a minivan? You could have fooled me. Either way.
Dude, as much room as he's got, he's got these multi-screens up there.
You know what? I have a Toyota Tundra. Might as well be a minivan. So what are we talking about? There's so much room in that truck. It's ridiculous. So let's go with the preseason final, the final preseason warm-up friendly match that we had on Saturday against Houston Dynamo 2. I will give you all of the information that we know from this match, according to the social media, the press release from SAFC, and the non-existent press release from Houston Dynamo 2. San Antonio FC gave away a penalty in the 32nd minute to Houston Dynamo 2, which was converted, and David Loera scored a screamer in the 83rd minute to tie it up. That's all we know. But we are going to use the film or the video that was released,
18 seconds,
that 18-second film clip that was released, or the David Loera goal, and we're going to give you the entire second half lineup for all the outfielders. Goalkeeper, shrug. I don't know if it was Mercado or if it was Far. Good Lord, how did I forget about Far? But we do know just about all 10 of the outfield players, and we will go through them Zapruder-like. But first, let's enjoy this unbelievable top 90 goal from David Loera.
And this is through SAFC's Twitter account here.
Shannon Gomez going up the middle, passing on to Loera on the left side of the box, and just an unbelievable right-footed strike in the top corner.
I don't know why you had to beep it out.
Yeah, they beeped out more than half of this video for various cursing. Okay, so let's break this down photo by photo. Harry, if you can bring up the first one. So in the very first one, this is Loera going back on a celebration. You can see to the left of him, number 17, that is Kamarni Smith right there.
We believe.
New signing. On the right, you could see number 11 there, Justin Dillon. So we have Justin Dillon and Kamarni Smith as a strike pair duo up front. Let's go to the next one. Now you can see just to the right of David Loera, there's Christian Pirano way out on the right wing. And it's kind of looking like, well, if there's two strikers, they're probably going to have 5 in the midfield, but I don't know if that's happening. And we'll continue to show why. So right now we have Kamarni Smith, we have JD up front, we have Loera taking the shot, and we have Pirano way out to the right. Now the next photo is going to show a mystery player. I don't know who this is by the ref. I can't tell. It's too blurry. The video goes by too fast. I can't tell who that is. I don't think that's Drew Hansen, excuse me. Not Drew, Nico Hansen. Why do I keep calling? Who is Drew Hansen? I keep calling him Drew.
Used to be a baseball player.
Oh, player.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? That you know what?
He was number one pick of the Yankees, I think, back in the day. Well, he also played quarterback with Michigan,
right?
I think he was a dual sport.
So that's why I have. Anyway,
that's aging yourself.
Apology. Yeah, probably. I'm not that old, but I'm old. But it might be Nico Hansen. I'm not sure. If I don't think that's Juan Carlos Azocar. I don't know who that is, though. It could be a trialist. We don't know yet. But to the right of David Loera right now, the assist getter on this goal is Shannon Gomez right there coming up the middle from, I would project from the right back position. Next one.
Oh, Drew Henson also played quarterback for your Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, disgusting. Okay. Then, excuse me. I don't want to affiliate Nico with any Dallas Cowboy. Apologies of the highest order. Okay. So now we get back to the back line in the midfield. You have PC right there. PC's obviously in the midfield. Loera comes up, celebrates with Roman Holt, who's a center back. And then you have Connor Maloney, who's also going to come and celebrate with David Loera. And I'm assuming
that's the first picture.
Yeah, I'm assuming David Loera is on the left. I'm David Loera. I'm assuming Connor Maloney is the left back in this. And then you see Fabian Garcia going off to the side. So that is all the players. So there is not 3 center backs in that. There's only 2. So I'm assuming that San Antonio FC is lined up in a 4-4-2, which we have seen with Marcina in the past, especially in the preseason. He likes to go with a 4-4-2 in the preseason. Last year, it's what we ran out against Austin. And there was another team that we ran a 4-4-2, but it looks like it was Garcia and Holt. And then on the outside, probably Shannon, Connor Maloney. In the middle, I'm assuming you had PC. Possibly, I'm guessing Loera. Maybe Loera was on the left and came in. Pirano was probably the right wing. And then that mystery player was that extra midfielder next to PC. So I'm not sure who that is. Could have been that Orlando City midfielder, possibly. And then ahead of them were Kamari Smith and JD. So we have the outfield lineup via Zapruder like film breakdown there. You're welcome. But that's pretty much all we have. We have 2 goals that were scored, and then we have the breakdown of the lineup that we had to do based on the video. So that's all we know from that friendly. So
yeah, no lineups, no nothing. This time here is
good old CIA Spurs again.
Sounds like they were playing a diamond in the middle, in the mid.
Could be.
Probably PC was a holding mid, and Loera was your attacking mid. Shannon probably on the left or right, and Pirano left or right.
It very well could be
on the wings. I think that's probably what the formation, that 4-4-2. There's put a diamond shape in the middle.
Very well could be. That I would not doubt that. And that's kind of that diamond shape is kind of a hybrid 4-2-3-1, which is also a hybrid 4-3-3, which is all kind of fluid in the same thing. So, hey, it could be.
We'll find out next Saturday.
That's correct. We will find out. That is 100% correct. And that's kind of what it seems like. I mean, last year, I know that's exactly what happened. We saw there's a lot of head scratching. I mean, last year, and this is kind of my, hey, don't panic, it's okay kind of speech, mainly to Harry. This is a therapy session for Harry. Last year, the final preseason match that everyone's looking forward to. We finally get to see San Antonio FC go one-on-one against a rival in the preseason. Let's see where they're at this season. Last season was exciting. We'll see. And Marcina goes, Academy kids, let's go get 90 minutes out there, and they get trounced 7-0 against El Paso, and everyone's like, what is Marcina doing? He has a track record of not giving a flying anything about preseason. He just wants fitness, and that's it. What's up?
Hey, Jose, because you said chill, Harry, and Marcina we trust. Back in the version when we had you on, I'm consistent.
I will say though, Marcy Nation, salute. I believe in Ala Marcina. We 5 trophies. 5 trophies. We're fine. And that Loera goal, gorgeous. Mwah, gorgeous.
Yeah, it's
what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? The XG on that shot, I'm sure, John, to go down this very, very, very stupid and unnecessary tunnel. Very low XG on that shot, but good Lord, quality.
Yeah, the curve on that thing, beautiful.
Ridiculous. We can go over the Magnus effect if you want to. I can find the formula in my old physics notes. Anyway, if we're gonna fall into our category of being nerds, Harry, I'll bring all the nerd you want, but
well, that's why you have it here. It's the analytics, which John is really great at breaking down the numbers, looking at the numbers. Rafa's good on it from the coaching aspect, and you're kind of our numbers guy, and I'm the fan that's, hey, oh my God, the sky is falling. It works.
You know what? Fair. Okay. Courage the Cowardly Dog. There you go. So our next topic, that's a preseason friendly. That's about as much as a breakdown as we could possibly do.
We got 16 minutes.
You know what? That's not bad for. There wasn't even a tweet, or no, it was 2 tweets. It was they converted penalty. We scored. Here's a video. Done. So anyway, moving on. Probably the biggest topic that we're going to talk about, besides John being here, just in the regular meat and potatoes, is Saturday. This coming Saturday, 6 days away. Season opener. Title defense begins. Against Oakland.
Can I interrupt you before you do that? We do have 100%. To kind of go over, because it is kit season, using USL soccer terms.
Yeah.
The big thing from San Antonio this week was the red out kit under the red bridge here, or red tunnel, pardon me, for that here. So thoughts? I like it. AJ liked it. This is the shirt we ordered for AJ. For this year here. So Rafa, Royce, you're the kit guys.
Real quick, I did see some people talk about this kit that they went to the Soccer Factory to look at, and it did not look like the photos. So buyer beware. Check it out before you buy it.
So you're saying I'm gonna be disappointed?
It's the RGV kit.
It's the RGV kit.
Well, it is the
season.
RGV kit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
But like I said, this is the Men in Black. You know what the difference between me and you is? I make this look good, and that looks a lot better than that white, orange, blue tragedy they had. So this looks really nice. But go look at it before you purchase it. My suspicion is that Soccer Factory got some of the very first runs of the making, and like the star is too close to the crest, and some of the spotting is a little off. But I think the latter ones that come in once they kind of get that process right, I think they'll look a lot better than the first run. I think hold off on the first run. But like I said, go look at the Soccer Factory and see if you can find one that looks nice. Rafa, what's your take on the red out kit?
It's different. I mean, I was expecting maybe all silver, kind of with like the lighter color. But hey, I'm cool with the red. Something different this year than the all white that we normally do. But I did hear something about the jersey was $60 about some code, and I didn't get no code about that. And where was the STM? Better send me the code so I can get it for $60.
I think that was the first one was $60. The one with the vertical stripe with the star.
That was the primary kit is 60 if you're a season ticket member.
Someone was spreading that rumor about the red. Well, we'll see. We'll find out later more who was spreading it. But I do like the kit. I can only imagine the third kit what's going to look like, what color it would be. It would probably be the Fiesta colors. Who knows? Yeah, like Jose said, better than the white kit. We'll wait for the new Fiesta kit. So maybe it'll be like the Spurs one that teal Fiesta, color jersey. But we're playing during Fiesta.
Twice, 2 matches in Fiesta. So hopefully I really hope they do sort something out. I got 2 points on this. Number one, I think this is a jersey that and a kit that's going to grow on you. I think this is going to be a lot like the checkers when they first came out. When the checker first came out, when me and my kid introduced it. You're welcome, everyone. Everyone was kind of like, okay, all right. And then
That kid was awesome from the start.
as the season went on, everyone's like, okay, this is what we need to do from now on. Which I would like them to bring back a variation of the checker design. I know, I think it was Hester, or maybe it was
Hester, yeah.
or maybe it was Aaron Flynn that was making more of the checkers, but those looked amazing. And San Antonio / Puma, you should look into those. At the same rate, for anybody wondering, that is a real tunnel. That is not color edited or anything. That is the tone of that tunnel, and that is on the Riverwalk downtown. So it's pretty cool that they did a red out kit. They found the red tunnel. Very city centric. I like it. John, what are your thoughts on this kit?
Yeah, I mean, lacking some of the local context and opinions on past years, I just like it as a kit. Like, that's something I would buy and wear if I had the budget room for it. I'll probably scan the league to see is there something that's a little bit more appealing, but it's up there for me.
Subscribe to Blackfield. Subscribe to
Yeah,
Blackfield.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you get that $5 subscription in and make sure I'm getting this red kit.
I will say, well, a couple things. I will say one of my favorite kits that I've seen that's been announced in USL. Let's not talk about that other money grabbing league, but the USL kits, the Oakland Roots special kit that they came out with.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. I really like their kit. And the second thing, your colleague on Backheeled, Joe, one of his colleagues on the Total Soccer Show, Graham Ruthven, huge kit guy. So I'm wondering if this is a order or pass for him. So because he is a kit sicko for sure. So, but we'll see.
Kit sicko would burn a hole in your wallet across the span of U.S. soccer.
Well, he's more of a world soccer kit guy, and that is a huge question that they always ask him. How do you afford these things, dude?
Right.
And I don't know how people afford to keep themselves in the new SAFC kits. I'm more of a polo shirt guy myself, and I'm still struggling to keep up with my polo game. So this is from
you got the Nike. You're 2 years behind.
Yeah, this is this is straight up from like 2018, 2019. Like,
yeah, I got my
lacking. There you go.
2018 season ticket
2018.
membership.
I recognize that one. Yeah, I remember getting that one.
San Antonio FC, none this year. Disappointing. We won't go into that.
Well, it wasn't. They didn't make a dedicated STM one. What they did was they gave you the home jersey at cost if you were to order it. That was the compromise. Was we're not going to pay. Instead, the club is going to take care of the soccer factory. So the club paid what, $100, or not $100. They paid about $40 per jersey to let you have it at cost. That was the compromise, and I like that compromise. I didn't like how that kit looked, and then looking at how it fits, I should have bought one. Buyer's remorse. That's kind of how that goes.
So moving on here. So my first question to you, John, kind of looking at the from the off season to the new season, San Antonio FC brings back its core, with the exception of Santiago Coutinho, who went to Avaí FC in Brazil, and the other big loss, which was to be expected, Sam Adeniran, returned back to the Sounders, went to St. Louis FC, and congratulations to him last night, making his first appearance in the undefeated St. Louis FC. For that here, they keep getting the opposing team passing them the ball to where they can get a one-on-one goalie. Go figure. So to me, the big question mark for San Antonio FC is how do they fill those roles, because that's what goals 6, and Adeniran had 16 goals for a team that they put up numbers, but not at a high frequency. We'll just say.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're trusting Justin Dillon, who played a lot, obviously, but was very much in rotation with the other strikers for a good portion of the season to take a step up. Same for Ballone. obviously, at least last year, this was a team that used 3 forwards, quote unquote, a lot of the time. That took the form of 2 strikers and more of a creative midfielder type. I would maybe look towards 2 of those creative sorts of players and 1 proper striker for a lot of this season. Pirano coming back is a big deal in that regard. I think Loera re-signing, he's somebody who obviously is more of a number 10. Camarnie Smith, having watched him a bit in Loudoun, he plays almost like this wide forward role. He's not a proper number 9 in my estimation. So it's going to be a bit of a different look, and you're trying to diversify more. These are players across the board that have come in who are pretty good on the ball. They're pretty quick in transition. So I think it's going to be more variety than anything else this year in comparison.
Yeah, and last season, definitely JD Justin Dillon was really utilized kind of out wide over being a true number 9, and he's more in a pressing role in a providing role, especially as we saw for if anybody wants to relive the magic of the Austin FC defeat at Toyota Field. Justin Dillon got the pass from way out wide, made a couple fake moves, and then crossed it into Elliot Collier, who's now with San Diego, and he flicked it into the corner, which Elliot Collier in that number 9 role could be theoretically switched out seamlessly with Nacho Bailone. They kind of have the same physical aspects. Collier has more he would more dribble, so there's that. So that maybe that's kind of why I was thinking Elliot Collier was more of Camarnie Smith was more of an Elliot Collier kind of switch where they lost Collier. Hey, we need a tall guy that could play striker a little bit, but mostly can dribble up. I think that's Camarnie's role, as well as Nico Hansen kind of does a similar thing. But yeah, that's definitely a question. Going into the season, obviously the preseason, we haven't scored a lot. One of the takeaways that I had from the preseason was a tweet that I screenshotted and I kind of made a deal of was against El Paso. They had like 4 or 5 straight tweets of great save, great block, great save, great block. And then the next one was Mitch Tainer tries from just outside the 18 and shoots one off the crossbar, which tells me A, San Antonio FC is obviously dominating. They're on the front foot. And B, for Tainter to have to take a shot, they're pretty desperate for some offense. And C, Mitch get that shot down so it'll go in the goal. But I would agree. I think that is obviously the biggest question mark going into the season. I agree with you that it's offense. I think defense and midfield setup, I think we're fine. I think we've only improved in that aspect. Yes, we're missing Kamiri. That's a pretty huge miss, but at the same time, we have Michael Edwards, and I think Michael Edwards and Kamiri have a lot of the same physical attributes, especially being tall, a lot of the clearances. And Michael Edwards is also 22. He's 4 or 5 years younger, so his body will be in a bit better shape as far as that goes. And then the midfield's still going to be the rotation of PC, Abu, and Maloney out on the wings. We obviously have improved with Juan Carlos Socar, which I still can't believe that happened. That's an insane move. But going forward, that is going to be the question mark. And man, we'll see. But the question I had for you to open things up, let's kind of get the big picture thing. Obviously, we've had a lot of huge changes in the West. We're going to mostly just focus on the West. What team had the biggest improvement in the West? What team had the biggest downgrade in the West, in your opinion, John?
That's a really good question. Yeah. I mean, Harry is hitting on it. There's no doubt in my mind that the Switchbacks took a bigger step back than anybody else. This is a team that was 3rd place in the West last year. I know Haji Berry left mid-season, but that still counts as a departure. Michigalina is gone. Cam Lindley, who made an all-league team, is gone. I mean, Brendan Burke getting sold for a transfer fee to go be an assistant in MLS is a huge deal as well. They didn't rest on their laurels. they're probably going to start 9 new players come week 1, and that's including Patrick Segrist, Speedy Williams, who are top-end USL players on their day. But I think overall, if you look at the group that they've brought in, it's a lot of slower sorts of pieces, people who are maybe past their prime in this league. They don't have a number 9 who I think is going to get more than 6 or 7 goals confidently. And when this team has been effective in the past, they've played with tempo. They've really got out there, hard press, getting on the counter. None of those facets of their identity fit with this team. So I think there are so many question marks, and I think that they're going to be pretty terrible this year, if we're being frank.
Yeah, they also lost their most important defensive piece last year to from last year. He went to San Antonio, Michael Edwards. So yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, well, they brought in James Musa from Phoenix to replace him. Phoenix, of course, horrid on defense last year, and Musa, if you talk to people behind the scenes, was the subject of a lot of blame for that. So,
woof.
yeah.
Woof.
To me, and this is the reason why I say it's Colorado Springs. When San Antonio lost to Orange County, they kept its core and built on the core. So they built that foundation forward for that here. To me, it seems like Colorado Springs, even before some of the announcements, it was like, hey, we're bringing in big name, big name, big name. But to me, I didn't see a clear identity of, hey, how are we improving? Yeah, you're bringing in names. And then, of course, the bottom fell out with Burke being transferred to Houston. To me, that following USL, to me, that's the disappointing side, because you could have seen, Colorado, if you were a Colorado Springs fan, see them take that next step like San Antonio did, like Phoenix did, previously, during their heydays for that here, where they were so close, they kept its core and they built on it. Not, hey, let's hit the reset button. And I think that's why I think for me, they probably won't finish last, for there. I do think, but I don't. To me, I don't know if I have them in the playoffs at this point, which is something I don't think you would have said at the end of last year. Rafa, any questions for John that you have for either the league, San Antonio, anything along those lines to get you involved a little bit?
Yeah, John, who do you think is the biggest dark horse for both the Eastern and Western Conference?
That's a good one. In terms of people sleeping on a team that I think is going to make an improvement, Monterey Bay probably stands out in the West. They missed the playoffs last year, but so much of it was because they dug that hole. They started the season with 7 straight games on the road when their stadium was getting finished. That is so demoralizing, and they lost 6 out of those 7 games. I remember San Antonio smashing them early on in the season, I think.
Yeah, we were at the last game, so
Right.
it was like 6-0, and you could tell that they were checked out and they were ready to go home. It was.
Three of the 6 goals were scored in the final 10 minutes, if I remember correctly, and even our left back ended up getting a goal. So, yeah, not ideal performance from them.
Yeah, but after that point, they played at a points per game earned pace that would have put them into the playoffs. In games where they had Hugh Roberts and Kai Green starting as their defensive duo, they were really hard to score on. And then late in the season, the offense finally clicked. They kind of leaned into the counter with Sam Gleadle, who obviously would be familiar, and then Chase Boone as sort of these aggressive wingers playing with a lot of tempo. And they doubled down on that approach. They've added Alex Dixon from Pittsburgh. He's constantly a double-digit goal and assist guy. He fills that same sort of role out wide, and they strengthen the core so that if one of Roberts or Green goes down, they have depth at center back. So take a team that probably would be playoff fringe, double down on the tactics with some really talented players. I think that they're going to be a much better team and much more dangerous than they were. In terms of the East, a team that took a step up, I think you have to point to Indy 11. There are some questions in terms of the depth and in terms of the age of the guys that they brought in, but with Aiden Quinn, Sebastian Guenzati, Cam Lindley, Jack Blake. There is so much talent there. It just makes sense with what Mark Lowry tries to do with that high possession, diamond midfield sort of style. I'm buying in on the fact that they're a playoff team at a minimum. I think that they're jumping over Detroit, certainly, and that would put them into the playoffs because 8 teams make the playoffs. So that's where I'm at. And if those players do come good, they have the talent to, if not challenge Louisville and Tampa Bay, be right beneath them in that 3rd place slot in the East.
And I think a big thing for Indy that's, unfortunately going to help them. I don't need to disparage Indy at all, but Fernandez's injury with Tampa Bay, I think that's really going to help Indy close that gap. And that's really going to help.
Loss.
Yeah, that's really going to help Louisville kind of dominate the East. So also noted former SAFC player, Cam Lindley, former SAFC player, Kai Green, former FCFC player, Sam Gleedle. Shout out to y'all. So real quick, we had the biggest improvement in the East. We had the biggest downgrade in the West. And the dark horse is going to be Monterey. Who had the biggest improvement in the West and who had the biggest downgrade in the East?
Improvement in the West, boy, I'm between Orange County and Phoenix. And just to summarize real quick, Phoenix was a kind of a mess last year. The defensive errors were constant. I think it went a little bit undercovered that Juan Guerra really righted the ship at the end of the season, and he's completely transformed this team. They only brought back 5 or 6 guys who played real minutes last year. They had a good preseason. If you think about like Danny Trejo is going to add so much in that attack. Fede Varela in the midfield is one to watch out for. Really special player with experience across the higher divisions in Europe. Orange County, they were another team that went from obviously a very defense-first approach.
First to worst.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah, title winner to dead last in the West. And it was because they were a mess in defense. So you're getting back Rob Kiernan, who started every game down the stretch when they won the title. You've added Andrew Fox, who's been a stalwart for years in El Paso. Owen Lamb is going to play fullback. He was 30-plus games in LA for the past handful of years. There's a lot of talent in attack as well. Milan Olaski won the Golden Boot for a reason. He's really good. They got Among. They got Mark McNulty, who played in Europa League games in Scotland. So even if some of these players don't quite hit, they've got enough lottery tickets that I think there's going to be something a lot more coherent here for them. So those would be the 2 in the West. An Eastern team that's taken a step back would be Pittsburgh or Detroit for me. And I like to hammer in on Detroit, I guess, because it's a very much a love-hate relationship between me and those folks. But Antoine Hopino led the league in assists. He's in Hartford. Declan Wynn had more assists than any defender. He's off to Charleston. Brad Dunwell went to USL League One, so that's really all of your depth at the number 6 spot out. And they kind of added nothing. Adrian Billhart, for instance, like coming from League One, he was the comeback player of the year. Is that enough to make a difference when you're losing some of the better attackers in the league? They got a guy from Loudoun. They got a player from Ipswich Town in England who has 300 minutes played and 1 goal in his career, and that's your solution at the number 9. I'm iffy on it. Devon Abumensa starting the year hurt as well in defense is a huge deal. I know that the Northern Guard folks don't like to hear it, but I'm out on this team.
To be fair, they don't like to hear anything, but yeah,
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah. Pittsburgh has definitely seemed to go with the Las Vegas Lights route and just kind of have random announcements of, oh yeah, we did this, by the way. It's like you still have like 10 people to sign for a full roster. So
they signed 8 players last week, which is crazy.
Well, there you go. See?
Oh,
Under
wow.
the radar.
Yeah.
There you go.
To me, if Pittsburgh didn't have Bob Lilly, we would hold them in a lot lower regard. But because they have Bob Lilly, we inflate what they, the value of the team
For good reason.
I wonder.
For good reason.
Right, but and I know Mongols has kind of hinted at this, who does a great job covering the Riverhounds. I wonder if the hot seat starts to warm for Coach Lilly. He's a goat. He's all of that, but in true Pittsburgh doesn't. Pittsburgh's like Colorado Spring, doesn't have the highest wage bill along those lines here.
Yeah.
But you just don't see that turnover. I don't really see the academy coming in for them, which is kind of surprisingly, because I think they do have a good a lot of soccer around them. So Pittsburgh's the one to me, even more than Detroit, that I think that you see take the drop here.
Yeah, with you on that. Talking to the academy, they've had a couple of prospects come up through that who've never really broken through into the first team. Wyatt Borso is coming to mind. He's an attacking mid, probably 19, 20 by now. He got a lot of hype and never quite broke through. But then Lilly every year signs 2 or 3 players like from the University of Pittsburgh or something and turns them into competent pros. So I'm not really seeing why the disconnect is there, but yeah.
And then Jose had a question that was going to be mine. Not necessarily a prediction on the Copa Tejas, but obviously we've talked San Antonio, but El Paso with all the changes that they've had, new coaches, kind of did Phoenix where they've rotated a lot of players out. And shockingly, RGV's kind of done the opposite where they kept a good core. I don't know how much better they are going to be, but they are not going to be worse than what they were last year. And, for that here. So, which, if you listen to Down in the Valley is a great thing for there. If you listen to Seriously Loco, there's a lot of questions. It's like they flipped the roles, in my opinion, on roles as far as the Copa Tejas teams. But your thoughts on RGV and El Paso?
RGV is a team that I'm looking at, and I don't really see a scenario where they miss the playoffs. Every year that Wilma Cabrera has been in charge, they've been in. They did lose a handful of players. Like I'm thinking about Fjellberg going back to Indy, Ikaza going to Charleston. They made some good pickups to really fill in for that, though. Like Cristiano Francois, say what you will about a bad season with the Locomotive, he's proven at this level. I'm something Benitez coming in at left back with Liga MX experience. They made a couple of additions late on in the offseason from, picking apart the carcasses of the MLS affiliates who I think are going to make a big difference in terms of depth. And then the permanent transfer of Christian Pinzon coming into the forward line is crucial. So in Copa Tejas terms, they're definitely a step behind San Antonio, but they feel very rock solid in the playoff picture. El Paso, if I had to look at the USL as a whole, is the team that I have the least solid read on. They could be in competition for home field advantage. They could be out of the playoffs by a mile, and I wouldn't be surprised either way. I did listen to that Seriously Loco interview with Brian Clairhout this past week, and he seems like he's a manager who wants to counterpress you. He wants to keep control of the ball, which fits in with the philosophy we've seen from this club in the past couple of years. But there's definitely, based on his experience in Sweden, a bit more pragmatism. I'm not a huge fan of what they did with the roster this offseason. When you're losing your Dylan Mares, Richie Ryan, Andrew Fox, I could go on. Mark Navarro coming in with La Liga experience is cool, but there are just enough unknown quantities in there and a lack of a clear vision from Clairhout in terms of like the shape and the tactics that I probably have them last comfortably in the Copa Tejas picture and outside of the playoffs in my predictions.
And I think the worst thing that El Paso did this season was they kept Yuma, so we hate them. Anyway, also shout out, we're talking about RGV podcast. Shout out to El Gringo. Let's talk RGV with the Shadow Wolf. What does he have? Der USL podcast. So there's a German guy that covers USL and RGV. So definitely give him a listen as well, as we're trying to promote. A high tide raises all ships. Let's see, what was the last? How do you see the let's go super adventurous, let's go top 4. How do you see the top 4 in the West playing out this season?
Yeah, so San Antonio first, pretty comfortably. They did it last season.
We did
They
not
brought
pay him,
back.
everybody. We did not pay
Yeah.
him. Okay.
Well, if you look at my predictive like points model beyond the eye test, it has San Antonio 10 points above every single other team in the USL, which is, I mean,
That's on the
granted,
low end. It's
yeah,
on the low end.
right.
We know. It's okay. You got to make it look a little competitive. That's fine.
It's a conservative model, and it just loves everything about this team. I do have San Diego second. They lost Kyle Vassell, who was their leading scorer last year and contributed a lot in terms of hold up and all of that sort of thing. They announced, I think, 17 players coming back right away in the offseason, and then slowly a handful of them continued to kind of leave. I mentioned Jack Blake going to Indy. Thomas Among, I think I
To
mentioned
OC.
earlier, going to
Just went to
OC
OC.
With
just
Yeah.
the
this week.
went down the road to OC. They're
Yeah.
arguably though their biggest loss is Landon Donovan's no longer on the coaching staff. So man, that's really woof. He did everything for that team.
That's
He's
the big
Yeah, he was
definitely
the
reason
was
why they're
PR
going to
he
take a
guy.
definitely
step
was not
up. Yeah.
he definitely was not just a face and a name to their coaching staff at all. So
Yeah.
woof, Landy Cakes. That's a tough loss.
I mean, replacing him with Nate Miller, who is kind of fantastic. He got his U.S. Soccer A badge this offseason. That's a big deal. Joe Corona with 30 national caps, and the weirdly unconfirmed, but everyone knows it's happening, Ronaldo Damas thing, a big deal as well, and totally makes up for the losses at striker. They
Yeah.
finished second, and they're going to be there again. So, third, I'm probably looking at Sacramento. They were third or fourth last year. Losing Dan Casey is the big one, but they replaced him with 3 other center backs who are every bit as good. Russell Cicerone coming in at forward to replace Malik Foster is a huge deal.
Yeah.
He got a dozen goals each of the last 2 years in Pittsburgh. He also plays that pressing style well, which is so important to the identity that this team has. I love that pickup.
He's a Bob Lilly disciple. I mean, you can't go
Yeah,
wrong there. Absolutely. And they still have Roro. I mean, Roro last
right.
season was unreal. So yeah.
He's timeless. Yeah. And if I'm going fourth, gun to my head, I'm picking Phoenix. I think that they're really going to take a step up. If anyone else does it, I would say Monterey Bay, with apologies to New Mexico, who doesn't have the firepower, even with Santi Mara coming back.
See, that's interesting to me because I figured, yeah, maybe New Mexico would be up there. OC, I think, is improved from
Yeah,
they've realized their mistakes. But you're going Phoenix and
yeah.
and Sacramento as 3 and 4. That's interesting. And then the other, I'm not going to ask you about the bottom 4 because that is a crapshoot at this point because of how much turnover there was in the West. Absolutely. But I agree on number 1 and number 1 by a mile, SAFC for sure. And the East, what do you think the East top 4 is going to look like? Do you think it's going to be the usual suspects, or do you think there's going to be a huge change with Indy 11 bringing back or putting together again the 2018 All League team? Or and do you think the Fernandez injury is really going to hamper Tampa Bay's chances at getting in the top 4?
I mean, I should throw in a word for Louisville as the obvious number 1, just because they deserve it. I spent a decent portion of the offseason worried about the defensive depth. Everyone knows that Josh Winder is going to be sold this summer for a whole lot of money, and they didn't do anything about that for a hot minute. And then they poached Jordan Scarlett, who started pretty much every game for the Rowdies last season, to be
Yeah,
just the backup left center back, which is crazy.
that's a very San Antonio FC move for sure to go.
Yeah.
Oh, that one Carlos Sokar guy that's really killed us at RGV, really killed us at Oakland Roots. Let's go get him. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
Very you know, very Cold War, stronger getting stronger. So strong getting
Yeah.
stronger. So agreed.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that naturally leads into the Rowdies, where Scarlett left. I still think they're safely the number 2 team in this conference, but they are a step behind Louisville. Losing Fernandez is big. I mean, Jake LaCava is gone to MLS. Lawrence Wyke from the back line went to Nashville. That said, they did a lot to replace these players. Forrest Lasso, 3-time Defender of the Year, coming back, massive. Poaching Connor Sparrow in goal from Miami was a big deal. He's somebody that numerically, data-wise, rates as consistently a top 2-3 goalie in this league. And then in the forward line, Cal Jennings, who's been a beast for Las Vegas, even though Las Vegas has been bad. And JJ Williams, who puts up goals, even though he's kind of been all across the board the past couple of years. They've got a lot of depth in the midfield as well. They're safe, even if they maybe don't have it to beat Louisville in a playoff context, but never say never. It gets muddier behind this for sure. Birmingham is probably my third team here. They kept a lot of the core. I mean, you're losing Johnny Dean to MLS. I'm Kaler pilled on this one, but Bruno Lapa's
Yeah, I think you're
out.
Kaler influenced.
Yeah, they definitely lost Dean, and they got Nico Brett back, didn't they, from
Yeah,
New Mexico, which obviously he was not happy in New Mexico, which, to be
right.
honest with you, who would be happy in New Mexico? I mean, come on.
The thing of it was that Brett started last season really nicely in New Mexico, and then
Oh, I'm talking about
yeah.
living, not playing in
Oh, no,
New Mexico. I'm talking
definitely,
about
yeah.
living in New Mexico. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, they also got Tyler Pasher, who tore the league apart a couple years ago with Indy, so that's
Well,
big.
He had a few good games early, and then he kind of got shut down.
Tore the league apart for half a season. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
really leaned on Cam Lindley to cover for his let's say weak defensive responsibilities. So I think Cam Lindley covered a lot for Pasher and let Pasher go wherever he needed to. So if Birmingham has a very strong 6, then he can go wreak all the havoc he wants. But if they don't, it's going to be very much I'll make this a San Antonio thing. It's very much going to be having Jack Barmby in the midfield, where Barmby's going to go forward and then just leave everything exposed behind him. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with that.
You're making the right point, though, in that this team has no depth in their defense at all. They signed 3 college kids this offseason who they're expecting to make the leap, but if they have any injuries, it's going to be a debacle for them.
2 teams that you haven't mentioned out east.
Yes.
And Charleston last year was horrible, but they brought in Ben Pierman. And then the sneaky pick to me is Hartford. It could just be that, Papano is kind of like Rojo out of Sacramento when he went to RGV. RGV all of a sudden became a competent team. To me, having him with Hartford, with bringing in Alvis Amo, who we've experienced his pain when he was with RGV. He did well in Colorado Springs, for that in the 3-headed monster. To me, Hartford and Charleston, I don't think they can close the gap on Tampa, because I do think Tampa, if they get pushed, will bring in the depth that's needed to be able to maintain that second seed. But I look for both Charleston and Hartford to make a huge push into the top 4 out east. I know you favor Indy. I worry about the depth. I worry about the age. I worry about injuries.
Yeah.
I worry about that
here.
For Indy, I worry about the age and the injuries on turf for the whole season.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to fare well for them, but stranger things have happened. Cam Lindley looked strong and healthy on turf in Colorado Springs. So, hey, you never know.
But it's coconut turf in Colorado Springs.
That sounds delicious, but I don't know what that means.
Do you think they have the chemistry? India have the chemistry to kind of get it going, or you think it's going to take a while for them?
I think the benefit of bringing in these veteran players, it can go the one way where they're a bit slow and a bit prone to injury, but they're also very smart. They know how to play the game in this league, and they can mesh quickly. And that's sort of my concern when I'm thinking about these Charleston and Hartford teams. Hartford is the one where I've really got my doubts on, will this rebuild pay off? I like a lot of what they did in attack, but they were scoring goals for fun at the end of last season under Tab Ramos when they changed up formations. They played with 2 number 10s. and they were still just bleeding out in the back. Matt Sheldon, Niall Logue, Tristan Hodge are all veterans of the USL that they've brought in to fix the defense. None of those players are particularly great at actually defending. They're sort of initiators with the ball at their feet. And then Richard Sanchez, who's going to be the starting goalkeeper, presumably, looked terrible by the numbers. He's a favorite of Tab Ramos, but I don't trust him. Charleston, I'm a lot more sold on what they're doing. Part of it is that they had the worst goalkeeping in the league outside of Orange County last year, and they brought in someone very competent in Trey Muse. So you're saving probably 10 goals just from that. They strengthen the defense with guys like AJ Cochran. I'm a huge fan of Emilio Caza coming in at the number 10 spot. I mentioned Declan Wynn. Some of the additions are a little bit less flashy, but Ben Pierman's strength as a coach is turning players that you maybe think are mediocre into real stars who are making an impact. So there's this implicit buy-in to what he's doing, and I think that they are in the playoffs for my taste. But I do want to say, actually, my fourth team in the conference is Memphis, even though they changed coaches. They're keeping, Stephen Glass is terrible. I will say that, but
Memphis went through a whole, even more so than Colorado Springs. I think Memphis is going to be the Colorado Springs of the East, where it's just like, what happened? What is?
They're keeping 9 out of their 11 starters are back for a team that finished third.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. At the same rate, Memphis surprised everybody by being as strong as they were last season,
right?
And crapshoot.
And was that the coach?
Scenario.
Was that the coach?
That's
right.
It's coaching.
Right.
Coaching is going to be the big difference, and the style of play of too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll finish things up with the last question here. We'll bring it back to SAFC. What roster moves do you think need to happen for SAFC to really solidify their title defense?
Yeah, I mean, pretty easy one for me. Another number 6 type, just another defensive midfielder to really shore up the depth at that spot. I think PC and Abu are amazing. Maloney obviously covers there pretty easily. He can plug in any spot in this team pretty comfortably. But it gives you more versatility to put Maloney at a fullback spot, push Azakar higher up the pitch if you want. Being able to have different formations, deploy players in different ways is really valuable. This is a very heavy schedule. Guys like PC are getting up there in age and have a history of injury. So getting the insurance there is the one thing that I think this team needs.
Fair enough. And I will kind of agree with you. I mean, Maloney and PC, I believe they're both between 26 and 29, kind of in their later 20s. Abu is on the wrong side of 30. I think he's 31. So definitely. And last season we had Jordi Delim in the playoff run, and he was a completely unsung hero in that lineup, especially when PC went down with his rib and spleen rupture. Delim came in and played his butt off for the last 2 matches and really solidified the midfield in our charge of the championship. So I will completely agree with that one. And I think we will look forward to possibly 1, maybe 2 signing announcements in this last week leading up. We know San Antonio FC typically likes to have 20 players, and then they'll do 5 academy players. Typically, we've met the 5 academy players at our season ticket member open practice. Willow was there. I'm gonna forget everybody. We saw Roman Holt, which is the GM's son, who is also going to play for San Diego State University. He is committed to San Diego State University. Sorry, I should clarify that. Absolutely, because a letter of intent is a letter of intent. It is not a contract. So Roman, Willow will be out there. Let's see, I can't think. There's a left
That's all
back,
right.
and then we have a midfielder of the academy players, and we'll probably have an academy goalkeeper again. Probably Jude will probably be back kind of in that third role. But right now our roster's at 17, 18?
17.
At 17. So one of those was supposed to be Sam Junkwa, so maybe they're looking for another, but we should expect 2 signings this week. Knock on wood.
Can't say anything because they ignore
yeah,
me
that's
last
correct.
time.
Harry, don't say anything. I'll say everything because what I say when I wear my socks because they work normally comes true.
I
Need a
will say
replacement.
I held my tongue on the frame by frame, but I think one of the guys that I've heard about was the player that you
The mystery.
spotlighted. Yeah, the mystery guy. So
Her.
Let me ask John
Yes,
this
but we have to
question.
be
This
careful because
question.
the last time we identified
Correct.
somebody in the picture,
Correct.
they magically got signed by FC Dallas. So
It's
I mean,
very
just-
odd.
I'm holding my tongue. Yeah,
It's very obvious that FC Dallas watches our pod to be like, oh, hey, that guy's available. Oh, let's go get that guy. So,
And then
hey,
MLS makes up a rule saying first refusal. Hey, Dallas sends Houston 75,000.
How does that work? It is announced that Sam Junkwa has refused to sign an extension with Houston Dynamo and is looking elsewhere. And he signed somewhere else, and he's still bound
Or he
to a
was in the
contract with
process,
Houston
yeah.
Dynamo.
right.
The MLS makes up their rules, and it's God, I can't stand that.
Let's move forward. Move forward. So I do have one question for you before we let you out of here, John. Obviously, Joshua Winder's the next big youngster to take the next step. Do you have any thoughts on who would be that next person behind him that could be making the move, whether it's MLS or Europe, anything along those lines that's caught your attention as far as for a young player?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, not to spoil the news, but Orange County has a player making a move in the near future. Elsewhere there, though, I would focus on Crede Oshandina, US U20 national. He, on the sly, made 18 appearances for them last year in the attacking positions. Really sharp winger, good with the ball at his feet. Didn't get any goals last year, I believe, but he's been really good in the international circuit in that regard. And then Fidel Barajas for Charleston. I think he's 17 and he's going to get some real minutes at wing back in attack. He, interestingly, is a dual national and has played for both Mexico and the U.S., Mexico most recently, racking up goals at the U17
Rafa,
tournament
stay
recently.
away. Rafa, stay away.
Hey, they won the CONCACAF, remember?
Yeah. Well, and Barajas was all over the scoreboard for them. So he's really a player that's special. Much like Oshandina, he got some time at the end of last year. So one to watch. Third name, just because Christopher Pearson, who's a number 6 for Tulsa, just in conversations with some people around there, they didn't expect him to really get minutes this season, and he might start week 1. He's had a massive preseason. He could get some appearances for Jamaica in the near future if he continues to excel.
And then Orange County just announced a club affiliation with which
Feyenoord in
Feyenoord. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, in the Dutch league. So, and they've had an agreement with, was it Rangers FC in Scotland? So they really
that one. Yeah.
So they really seem to be for sure getting affiliated with European, because obviously European clubs are looking at USL because, as we've seen in the past, it is much easier to get a transfer from USL than it is from the other league. So they would obviously prefer to do business there. And at the same rate, we're excited. This is more of a USL announcement than anything, but Sunderland is coming in to the United States this summer. They're going to play San Antonio FC. They'll play New Mexico on their baseball field. We'll see how they appreciate that. And they're going to play North Carolina FC. So that is a pretty exciting development for the USL to bring a possible Premier League team to come do some summer training. So what are your thoughts on that? As far as hopefully that's kind of a continuing thing that clubs from abroad continue to do.
No, I think it's cool. I mean, it's a little bit weird in terms of the timing for USL clubs, just because it is mid-season, but say what you will about the attention people pay to English lower division soccer against American soccer, but every time a club announced a friendly against Sunderland, it got major eyeballs. It was all over whatever internet source you're looking at. It's a good way to grow the game and get attention locally amongst those European fans. So I'm here for it, and I think it's good for the growth of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be awesome to see. Obviously, San Antonio in the past, we've had friendlies against a lot of Mexican league teams. Santos Laguna, we played a lot. Last year was San Luis Potosi, and then we've also had Cardiff City from Premier League team / championship team come and have a friendly with us. Unfortunately, our pitch wasn't in the best shape, so I'm hoping for a little bit better this season. But John, thank you very much for being on with us. Go check him out at USL Tactics on Twitter. Check him out on Backheeled. Subscribe to Backheeled.
Subscribe, $5 a month. Come on, people.
Also subscribe to the USL show. He could be seen on the USL show quite a bit. His work is always great. His work's always appreciated, always great. I listen to it all the time, and his breakdowns for tactics and his breakdown for the numbers, they make me want to be better with the information that I provide. So I really appreciate that, John, for you setting that bar so high. Rafa, Harry, do y'all have anything else?
No, I just want to thank you, John, like I said, for all the work that you do. And like I said, obviously, I'm a huge supporter of what you do, for here. And like I said, anything that we can do to help you out, even get into Twitter wars with, Detroit fans, I'm down for that, here. I love you, Red, in the 451 podcast, but, along those lines, Detroit's a special breed. We'll just leave it at that. But
they're the Little Caesars of the USL.
All I know
don't tweet at me. Don't tweet at me.
if Detroit does make the playoffs this year,
it's because Maxi Rodriguez is unbelievable and he deserves an MVP.
This is so true. Yeah.
That's why San Antonio's
if they do, if they do make the playoffs, like I said here, I think that'll be a bigger story this year than last year, because I thought last year they had a USL Championship team, and like you, I do think that they took a step back. But more importantly, I think other teams in the East have took a step forward, like Tulsa, which we didn't even get to talk much about.
I think the big
John,
real quick, I think the biggest step forward in the East is Near Credibles 2 is not there anymore, and Loudon is independently owned. So I think that'll be an interesting twist in the East.
Every team in the East but Pittsburgh and Detroit improved, so it's going to be tough.
Every team. Speaking of that, with Loudon, I wanted to touch on Loudon earlier, but it's Loudon, so I was like, if there's a subject we're not going to do, but since you brought it up, how do you think them going independent will help them? Because it does seem like they still have some ties to DC United. So it's almost like an RGV type relationship when they were with the Dynamo a little bit. But just kind of your thoughts, and if you can't say anything, you can't say anything, because I do know that you have better connections just with the league, and I don't want to do burn anything along those lines. But just your thought on how Loudon going independent kind of changes things for them going forward.
This year is definitely transitional. They've got 4, 5, 6 players who are on season-long loans from DC. They didn't quite know when the ownership thing was going to happen, and so it affected what they were doing in terms of those player signings and announcements. I think they're going to be bad, frankly, in 2023, but I think there's a lot to look forward to. Their shared ownership with the, I believe, AAA baseball team in the area. Yeah. And that's a positive, to have an ownership group that's local and focused on making this team competitive, rather than making this team a vessel for the development of DC United's prospects. So I would look out for higher profile additions, a little bit more spending, probably next off season. But if they can keep Ryan Martin around, who I think is the most underrated manager in the USL, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go in the near future.
Your final thoughts, Rafa, to John?
I was just gonna ask him: is there one player that maybe SAFC, that's available, that would take SAFC to the next level? Like, that's still out there that maybe we were missing to repeat.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of like USL free agents who could maybe make a difference. Obviously, that number 6 spot is what I was thinking about in terms of a player. I'm pulling up I have that stupid informal list. Well, I'm going to zag a little bit and just point out that Arturo Rodriguez from Phoenix is still available. I think
that's right.
Probably hyped him up as like a loose MVP candidate last year, which obviously didn't bear any fruit, but he's someone who was excellent with North Texas, came up in that Dallas system, which has been pretty prolific. He's more of a number 8 than I think he gets credit for at times, and so he can add a different dimension compared to a lot of players in this squad. So he would maybe be the difference maker that I would point to right now. And I think that would also maybe pivot towards more of a just play a back 4, move one of those very technically able central defenders into a pivot kind of role. So that would be my guy.
Well, last year we definitely did have another number 8 that came from North Texas that played really well with us, and that's Nicky Hernandez.
Yeah.
And nobody knows where
Bring
he's
him
at.
home. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody knows where he's at. That's the problem. We've done some social media stalking, and we've seen him, warming up with an arena soccer team up in the DFW area. Played with the feeders. Yeah. So
he was so good.
He was unbelievable. That's what we're saying. Like, what happened? FC Dallas refused to re-sign him. He's not playing North Texas anymore. San Antonio FC's, well, they're radio silent, so who knows what's going on. But yeah, that's been a mystery for us. So yeah, and that would be a player that would fill a midfield need for sure.
Absolutely.
So shrug. That's all I got. Well, let's try take 2 on the farewell. So that's kind of what we do. It's we try to follow a run sheet.
It's optional.
And,
I'm on a podcast hosted by Kaylor Hodges. I know how that goes.
God, Kaylor once again just getting sideswiped on this podcast again.
I hope he listens. Yeah.
That is a feature of this one. All right. Well, thank you, John. Rafa, thank you. Harry, thank you. Once again, Saturday. Can't wait to see all y'all. Crocketeers / 210 Alliance /
the tailgates.
The tailgates.
Matt mentioned that all the supporter groups are going to be having tailgate. Oh, go ahead, Rafa.
Go ahead.
I was going to say just one final thought. Just want to put that out there for those watching. So make sure to go to the GoFundMe for Victoria Mendez from Kettle Mills High School. Please donate for her. She had a real serious accident at a game. So I just want to do a shout out for her, and her family to help, go help on her GoFundMe page.
For sure. We're going to post that on our Twitter, and we'll post it on the Facebook. I'll try to go share it. Middle school soccer player had a very serious injury. Was it middle school? It was high school. High school soccer player had a very serious head injury, and she will be in the hospital for a good while is what her prognosis is looking like. So
2 to 3 weeks, and she's got to relearn how to walk. And it's one of those unfortunate events that 1 in a million while you're on the pitch.
Absolutely. So prayers up to her and her family. We're thinking of y'all. And at the same time, like I said, we'll repost repost that GoFundMe information. But thank y'all for joining. Once again, tailgate starts at 4 on Saturday. Looking forward to seeing all y'all. Kickoffs at 7:30. Come by and say hi if you see any of us at the tailgate. John, thanks for coming on. And what's life without goals? We'll see y'all.
And support Backhilled and John and Joe Lowry if you can, please. And thank you for tuning in, and hope